Hello and welcome to the next installment of Success Leaves Clues. I'm Miles Beckler. I'm your host, and today I have a very good friend, an incredibly savvy businesswoman, and she's going to explain to you how she's built quite the monumental business. We're going to talk about marketing, we're going to talk about mindset, and we're going to talk about how she has so much free time for how successful her business is. So Neha Gupta, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Miles. So glad to be here.
It's awesome. So I want to dive into the early parts of your story. We're personal friends for everybody to get this. Like, you've been to two of my abundant circles, so I know a lot about your businesses, but I'm going to kind of retrace some of the things that I don't know, and maybe some things have changed so you can update me, but I want to get our audience caught up to where you are from a business perspective now. You have or had two brands that I'm aware of. And I'd like you to give the quick 30-second pitch on each of those, what you do for your marketplace, so we can kind of start there with a little foundation.
Yes. So I had two brands. I now have one, which is awesome. So Elite Private Tutors was my first company, which was started in Houston, Texas. And all we did was tutor in Houston. And it was all one-on-one tutoring by yours truly. And I eventually built a team of tutors that did the tutoring as well. And then one of the big things we saw over years of running it is that students really needed help with the admissions process or getting into college or with their essays. And so we started to see a lot of success with helping kids get into where they wanted to go. And so we ended up switching over to College Shortcuts, which is now my main brand. And when I started that at first, I'm trying to remember. I think Miles, you were a big part of this as well in our conversations, was around why do I not have a digital online course? Right. And so I was, again, that one-on-one coach at all times. And so we launched College Shortcuts, the online do-it-yourself course of how to get your kid in. And we made multiple courses, and we've still, even up till now, still created even more amazing courses for people to take. And then we've also added in high ticket consulting for one-on-one. And now we work with
ultra premium stuff.
Yes, ultra premium. And we work with students nationally and both internationally now.
Yep. Perfect. And you're helping kids get into Ivy League schools. I remember in our early conversations, it was kind of what do the parents really want, right? Because the parents are the customer there, and the parents want the kid to go to that school, even if the kid maybe isn't ready for that school, and greasing the slide. So may I ask, on the Elite Private Tutors, when did you start that? How old were you? Because I know it was really quite recent after you got out of college, wasn't it?
Yes. I'd say I was probably 21 when I started that company at first. And I was working full-time as an account manager, where I was helping to build websites. So that was my 9 to 5. And then I would tutor 5 to 9, and then I'd work on weekends. And I made the decision that, until I could get a good amount of finances together, would I be ready to jump off that ladder? So at first it was a side hustle, and then 8 months into working full-time and not being challenged enough at work, and starting to feel physically ill going in, I realized that I had to quit. And I sobbed that day because I realized that I could never go back.
Yeah. So you're 21 years old, you start the private tutoring, you start selling services one-on-one. Services are by far the fastest way to start making money. It's also the most difficult thing to scale, what you learned. Did you sell that business when you're done, on the way out, or did you just close it down?
Basically College Shortcuts just ate it. So what ended up happening, cool. What happened was we still offer tutoring as well. And we do it now nationally with kids versus just one-on-one in each home.
Yep. And it's this, this is a huge insight for people watching, that what you're doing now, that we're going to get into the specifics, and it's doing incredibly well. You didn't have this vision right away. You did what you could see, you did those next few steps in front of you, and you followed the path and the pivoting. And then you also seem like you invest a lot in personal development, getting into the masterminds and the closed tables. I think that was at the Bangkok event when I was first you don't have any digital products, not even one to sell. Might be an opportunity there. This is fantastic. So can I go a little farther into your path? Everything you've done is education, right? So college secrets. So culturally, at a family level, right? You're from Texas, you're a Texan. What does education mean to your family? Was education
Oh my
important to
gosh.
your family? Like, there we go. Yep. Hit me with it.
Yeah. So my education runs like very deep in my family. My grandparents had built and grandparents had built the first university for Indian women to get a college education for free. So
I didn't know that.
yeah. So, in my culture, education for women was, my grandmother, didn't have like the best education, right? Like it wasn't expected even 2 to 3 generations ago for women. And so they built this university. The university still exists and is still running. Then my mom and dad started a company called USA Employment that my mom now runs full time. And basically what happened was they brought teachers from India and the Philippines, and they placed them in the United States where some of these schools in Arizona and other places like North Dakota, especially in the Native American reservations, they have substitute teachers. And so they are now bringing PhDs from India to teach math at an elementary school level. So
That's
now
awesome.
you have my parents are like that. Then my mom ended up owning a private school here in Houston, Texas as well. And now here I am, doing tutoring and college admissions. So my background runs very deep. I'm not raised by like 2 doctors or like, engineers in that way. It's really, they've always done entrepreneurship and then this was their field. But the tutoring, I want to be clear, it's not like my parents ever said, you should go into education.
Right.
Actually, it's not at all what they said. But for me, I started tutoring. The business of elite private tutor started when I was 21, but I tutored at 15 and I
Yeah.
couldn't believe that I was getting paid and like enjoying what I was doing. Like I was getting paid 45 an hour to tutor 3 kids at the same time. So $15 a pop, which I thought was a lot back then when you're 15.
Group coaching.
Right? Group coaching. And I was teaching them dance for their talent show. And I was making a lot of money doing it. And it was what I love to do.
Yep.
So, and I don't think at a young age, I realized that like, that was, they say that like, what are you going to be great at is like when you feel like what you're talking about or working on doesn't really feel like work and you are shocked you get paid for it. That's when you really hit the sweet spot.
Right. Right. And I mentioned that and I bring that up because like, I don't know if I would, and I'll ask you, like, would you consider yourself like at those ages, were you like passionate about education or was it just something that was around you and it came easy to you and you were like, oh, I share this with people, I make money. Like that's a pretty good deal. And then it just like, how did that, because so many people are like, oh, find your passion. And other people are like, find the underserved niche. And it sounds like you just kind of like, well, these kids need help with stuff that I know and their parents are willing to pay money. So I might as well help. And then it just like, well, could I do it more and more? And
Yes. So it's interesting because part of my business at College Shortcuts is helping teenagers find their passion. But the way we do that is by sticking them into 10-week incubators to go test the theory out. The only way you're going to learn if you have a passion for something is to go fail at it. Yeah. So I have a student who's like, I want to go to law school. It's like, great, let's come up with a law school project and let's go have you talk to a bunch of lawyers and hope
paralegal for like 10 days and see if you like what it,
do you like to read a lot?
Yeah.
And do you like that LSAT test? Because I thought I wanted to be a lawyer. And then I walked right out of that LSAT class being like, logic problems.
Yeah.
So I would say that it's about experiential learning. So no, was I passionate about tutoring at the beginning? No, my dance teacher knew I was the only good hip hop dancer at my class. So they gave that mom the phone number and I just so happened to get paid for it.
Yep. And so you observed from there,
yes.
Like, okay, this worked. Maybe I can do it again. And so I often say like, how can you help people? And for many folks, it's like, it's hidden in their blind spot, right? Like the gamer who's really good at the game doesn't realize that there's people out there paying to get coached at gaming. Or the quilter, I have a lady, she's in her 60s in Montana. She teaches quilting and she does these quilt alongs and people are paying her to learn how to quilt. And the content's free everywhere else online, but they want to buy her PDFs over it. And she's like, oh, maybe I should do this again. And maybe I should do it again. And all of a sudden she's, got a real business out of it. Just kind of like following what's working.
Yes. It's all about following what's working because the same thing happened with us at tutoring. We were running a tutoring company. It was going great. And then we saw that people really wanted help with getting into college. And that was a big thing. And then we followed that specific angle. And I've seen this with entrepreneurs all the time. My sister, when she started her first company, it was an online store for organic products in the early 2000s. What was the sector that sold the most? Baby.
Yeah.
So she went deep into the baby
Yep.
fashion, baby products, everything,
Right.
and ran a significantly successful business doing that. So it's really, in the end, it's about listening to your customer will tell you very quickly where their pain
100%.
is.
Yep.
And you basically just repeat back that you have the solution if you have the solution. It's actually quite simple. But if you try to tell them what they think they need, that means you haven't listened.
Right. Right. And so Eugene Schwartz in Breakthrough Advertising, he talks about you can't build desire within a marketplace, right? You can only tap into the existing desire, and you can channel that desire in a specific direction. And it's that awareness of kind of keeping your ears open of, okay, what else? And often running surveys and sending emails, what else do you want to learn? And that's probably something you're doing now with College Shortcuts is cool, we helped you with this. What else should we create for you? And they tell you what to make for them, and you make it, and then you offer it, and it sells, and it crushes it. And you're like, God, this feels easy.
Yes, it feels very easy. And I will say, one thing I did do, I remember early on at the beginning of College Shortcuts, was I was given this homework assignment, which I love homework. And it was, can you find 10 moms to spend 1 hour on the phone, record the call, and then listen to everything they talk about. And then everything they say, print out everything and find all the commonalities of what they're all talking about. And then in their own words, deliver back what they're asking for.
There's your sales page.
Right. And when I started to do that, I've had parents be like, oh my God, I read your email and it was like you were just speaking exactly what I'm dealing with. And I said, yes, because I listened to you first.
Yeah. You took the time to do the research.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't take that time. And I'll say that you're at a big disadvantage if you don't listen to who you're solving the problem for, because you could use a different type of language or wording, and all of a sudden, boom, they're like, please take my credit card.
That's split testing in a whole nutshell, right? You don't even have to change the offer sometimes. It's just how you position the offer and how you present the offer, and you can get remarkably different experiences. So College Shortcuts, digital products mainly. It's a huge problem in a family's path, right? So you have adolescents. You're like, man, I don't know if little Timmy's going to make it. You better get into that good school, Timmy. And it's one of those, it's one of the biggest things in that family's life, especially when you have alma mater parents who expect their kids to get into where they're at type thing. So it's this big urgent problem that happens inside of one phase of that child's life. Is it driven mostly by parents? Are the students the reluctant drag along, or do you get a lot of students who are let's do this. I'm committed. This is where I'm going.
I will say that we get a lot of students that are these are the top 5 schools I want to go to, and here's why.
Perfect.
So it's not always parents driven. It can be parents driven if we're handling a very introverted student who has a hard time effectively communicating, even though they have all the ingredients for success. And so that's where we really finesse that student, because that's where their blind spot is.
Yep.
Is how to express themselves properly. So yes, it's both. It's a little bit of both, but you have to think about it. What are the 2 most expensive things a parent spends on? Their house and a college education.
Yep. 100%.
And then in Indian families, a wedding.
Yeah. If you're bringing 3,000 people together for 5 days, you're going to have quite the party. So is your core offer on that? Because I believe you have a book on the front end, but is your core offer a video course where module by module and lessons, pre-recorded once and done? Did you record it live when you first launched it? How did you bring that out?
It's so interesting. So after I had met a lot of people that had online courses, I was like, oh, I wonder why I haven't done this. So I actually I spent a Friday night and Saturday just typing out an 80-page script, basically, of what I do for a living. It's just what I do. And I was like, okay, so I just typed it all out. And then in one day, I did a 1-day film, which is, I will say, if you want to be super exhausted for 2 days after, this
do
is
a 1-day film.
Do this. But if you also don't want to spend a lot on filming, it also works that way. And you don't want to do hair and makeup twice. So I'm one of those more efficient people. So I picked every outfit, all the jewelry, and I filmed 15 to 20-minute videos. The script was already in me. So it was in front of me, but I didn't really need it, because it's just what I do for a living. Right. And I broke it into modules from building the college list, how to write your resume, how to do the essay. And then I even included like some bonus interviews with some of my own tutors about how they went from A to Z and how they're at this college or why they picked this major. And parents really love that because they want to hear from actual students of how they got from where they went
The
to where
thought
they
process,
went.
the pivot, it all worked out in the end.
Yes.
That's
and
brilliant.
so that's what I did. I did my course in one day.
And so
it's not a live course. It's a evergreen course.
Yep. Make it once, sell it over and over. Are you still selling that exact course?
We do sell it, but it's not our main business because
built on top of it now.
Because we found out that our parents were buying my course. They were trying to become a college consultant with a teenager. And they realized their kids wouldn't listen to them or do the work. And so what happens is they watched the course and then they'd fall in love with us. And then they'd call us and say, what do you cost? Like, I'm not doing this project. You do it for us.
Yep. So
but it created, what is that called? Like something and trust, love, like, and trust.
Yep. No, like, and trust.
There it is. You say it all the time.
I like love, like, and trust. That works perfectly.
Okay. And they literally can't help but give you money because you have a system. Now, then after that, and I should have done it in a different order. I took the script and turned it into a book.
Right.
There's the 100-page book in massive font, for my older people. And I wanted to make it seem long.
To get the spine. Yeah, totally.
Right? And boom, I had my book too. And I've had families say, Neha, I read your book and my kid got into Stanford just using your tool. So to me, I'm like, wow, you can buy a $19 book and still get great results if you're really, really freaking hungry. And that's really what we want in the end, is for the next generation to get into the right places, do their passion, and then change, the world, because we obviously need it. So we had the book, we had the online course, and then we had high ticket sales, but we started with services first
and work down. Yeah. And like, I call this your offer pyramid, right? Like it's shaped like a pyramid. So at the big base, there's a mass market offer, which is your book. And then some of the people who go through the book want the course because they want the videos, and they're like, this is brilliant. She clearly knows what she's talking about. I read her book. I get that she understands it, but I want a little bit more guidance. So few of those people go through the next, and then even fewer yet make it up to the top of the pyramid. And that's the creme de la creme. And that's the one that actually moves the needle in your business.
Yes.
I love that so many people try to map all this stuff out beforehand, right? Melanie and my business and our funnels. And like, we just did that. And then we did that. And then it was like, whoa, can I build a funnel out of this? Like, what if I opt in and do, and like, oh, it started to work. Like, oh, okay.
This is what's really funny, guys. I'm going to be really honest. Okay. We created the online course. We put it on a website. No one bought it on the site. I was like, why is no one just hitting the site? Okay. So really how we got started was I built a webinar with slides, and it failed many times. And every time it failed, I ate spaghetti because that's my comfort food. So I was just carb loading, gaining weight those first 40 webinars. Hilarious. Okay. And then all of a sudden I got it down to a science. I figured out what the words were. I changed up the slides. And then after a certain amount of webinars, we started having people buy the course. And then we got to like 5 figures on a webinar. I was like, this is insane. So I did 150 live webinars, which most people do not take this much time to perfect it, until I saw that I was getting consistent sales on that course. And then we were able to make it seem live with all the comments. Now, I've been running that ship for the longest time. In the last year, and by the way, I tried to do these funnel things before, but it was like, why? I don't know, $5.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
I'm like, stupid stuff. I'd rather go webinar to course. Then we did webinar to services, and that's where I've been really focused.
Okay.
Now I have a team member who's come in and said, do you realize that you are literally missing this entire section of the market who does not want to buy your services at 4 to 5 figures, that need to get to know you. They need to get to know you in 8th and 9th grade, buy your stuff and all that sort of stuff. So I will say, did I have this mapped out? No. I just tested and tested and tested. And could I have like been stuck at like, what should this sales page look like? Or, I mean, all the like things about it. Yes, I could have been stuck for 3 years. I've seen entrepreneurs buy, what is that? Like the one funnel challenge, and they hold that box that Russell mails, and they never do the work. So
Right.
I know because
Because you
I
can't
don't
post the
know.
work on Instagram. You can post the box on Instagram, but you can't post the work on
Yeah,
Instagram, right? Like
right.
that's the tough part. So when you were selling at Elite Private Tutors, when you were selling the coaching or the tutoring,
Yeah.
were you selling over the phone? Were you closing in person? Were you
Oh my gosh. So remember, this is back in the day. This is like before, I think it was
like
around, yes, before
Motorola
the
Razor
iPhone.
days? Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, the
All right.
Razor phone. People were not confident scheduling things online.
Right.
Like, okay, no one was buying it. Most of my moms were like, credit card, you can't have my credit card.
Right.
So it was a hustle. I mean, I was doing
So you were
phone
getting
calls.
checks.
I was going to carpool line at certain schools and just finding most of the moms were there. And so I walk up to their car and pick up checks.
Damn, that's
I
awesome.
mean, at 10 p.m., some nights I drive to the houses and under the doormats at night on a Friday, I'd be picking up checks. So this is what you call it's like artisanal jam, in a way where you're just like this is pre all the tools we have today,
Yep.
which I mean, I'm like, God, if I had these tools over 15 years ago, like,
You don't know, because like, see, this is the point, and this is why I went back there, is like those experiences, getting belly to belly with the moms, having to do it manually, having to do it the hard way, built these like neural networks. They built these scripts, they built these ability to overcome objection. And like when you're doing, then you're like, cool, now I can do a webinar. Okay, so the webinar is kind of like that experience was. It's just me and a Logitech, right? It's just me and a camera now.
right.
And then you were like, damn, okay, I need to do this 150 times. No, few people are doing that much work, right? Because there's too many people out there making it sound easy. They make it sound like one phone away, you're just one thing, and boom, and all of a sudden you're just hammocks and Mai Tais.
You do the webinar by yourself, no live audience, record it and throw it up there. I was like, that is the biggest BS I've ever heard.
Yeah. Yeah. The odds of that sounding authentic, genuine, helpful, and doing your brand good are tiny, unless you've done it 150 times. And I know one other person who has done a webinar, who actually did the whole like 100 to 200 webinars in a year. Brian Moran and Scott Moran from Samcart, and they're running like what will be $1 billion business. And it literally came down to the fact that twice a week, every week, he was live doing the webinars. And now they're like, Miles, I want to do a webinar in front of your audience. I'm like, that's awesome. I don't do that. That's not the kind of guy. That's not the marketer I am. But they are so good with webinars, and you have built a skill. Right now, you've got this webinar skill that when you decide to apply it over here, over there, like you're still young, you got 3-4 more business ideas and pivots in your future that you ain't even seeing yet, that like you're just always going to know. Like it's your rainmaker skill, really. Like you mix that. Do you have a paid ad person on your team?
Yes, we do.
Yeah. Rainmaker. Like you and paid ad person make it rain. Like, that's it. Like you turn it on, you run the ads, you just set it up, and it just goes. So like Melanie and I, we've found this one copywriter. She's no longer available, man. I used her we had her write like 8 or 9 sales letters, and I got my ad guy. So I've got these great sales letters over here. We've been running traffic to these exact same sales letters for years. Don't touch them, don't optimize them. They just mint money.
Yes.
And now we can think about the next offers. What else do we want to build? And now we have to do the sales copy ourselves, but we're borrowing from her. We didn't actually learn that skill. We haven't mastered that rainmaker skill ourselves. But it is really cool to see that the kind of like building that webinar skill has really served you. So you're selling your high ticket stuff on webinar at this point too?
Yes, that's what we do. We literally sell high ticket services. It's Facebook ad to webinar to a sales closer to purchase.
Do you have a free plus shipping funnel built around that book yet?
No, we are literally,
cool.
I built one of those a long time ago, and I was just kind of whatever about it. We are now building a behemoth. I had someone come in and be like, they were like, do you know how much stuff you've made in the last 4 years? Like, it just needs to be put together properly. So they're making a funnel where we offer the book, but then we offer like my admissions trend report, my white paper report on essays, all this stuff as bonuses, so that it's like it's basically a no-brainer product purchase.
Irresistible offer.
Correct. And then there's the OTO on, do you want the College Shortcuts course? And we're offering it at a very discounted rate. And then it's like, do you want the information on how to write your essays? Because we know that's the second biggest pain point. And then they get a little thank you. And then from there, it's, do you want a one-on-one consulting call with us so we can see if we can work with your kid? So this is the funnel I dreamt of making. Like, this was in my brain when we had met, of like, oh, I really would like to do that someday. And only now
you got all the pieces, got a few
I
of
have
the right
all
players.
the pieces, all the right people on the team. And one of the reasons why we're looking at it is because we're trying to figure out effective ways when it comes to ad spend, because when you spend a lot in ads, then it's like, oh, is there other ways to do what's called a self-liquidating offer?
Yep.
And so I'm like, oh, let's try this out. So it's been a dream of mine for someone to really come in and take all of my hard work, make it branded beautifully, and create that funnel. But if I had tried at the very beginning to try to piece all this together, I'd probably rather just sit on a beach and drink margaritas, like in Costa Rica with you.
You're not much of a drinker. We've hung out on beaches, but just sitting on the beach, playing body surfing in Costa Rica, some glorious memories.
Like, I'd probably just do that instead of trying to do this.
Drinking coconut water.
Because I'd be too scared and too intense about the stuff versus just trying one quick thing and just failing a bunch and then going from there.
So your webinars that are selling the courses right now, we'll call that like the current mechanism that's generating the cash flow. How long have those been running? Like, so you did 100 and something of them over a year plus.
Yeah.
You dialed it in, you evergreened it. How long ago was that? How long has this thing been?
That was 2016.
When you went evergreen with it?
When I started to do webinars.
So 2017, it went evergreen?
Yes.
And it's still just literally printing money now 4 years later.
I looked phenomenal in that webinar. I look back at that webinar, I'm like, wow, I look real young. I'm like, how do people not watch my Facebook Live and be like, she's 20 pounds less in that video? Yeah. But they have and I have like, this is not even the background. It's like the college shortcuts. I spent $30 on Vistaprint and took this ugly logo and put it behind me. And I wore a yellow shirt to match the yellow grad cap. Like, it's not even what we do now. But it works, and it has like all these people commenting.
Yep. Well, you take people on a journey. You learned the journey of, okay, the mom's there and she needs to be there, and these are the objection and these are the beliefs, and you build the beliefs and you overcome the objections through stories, through explaining. And then the only logical outcome is, if she really loves her child and she doesn't want them to become a junkie, which we've talked about before, the biggest fear, the only logical option is just to invest in this one thing right here. And you just got it down to where it flows naturally. They know you, they like you, they trust you, they love you. They're confident it's going to work. You take all the risk off the table. Bingo. Can we ask how much you're making in your business, or do you have a rough idea of how much this thing is made for perspective for the audience?
Yes. So I will say that we crossed the 7-figure mark 2 years ago. And during high five, guys, listen to this. Miles is the one that took me to a ClickFunnels conference. 2 years later, Russell and I are in Africa together building a school. And then by that year after of hanging out with Russell and here, just even for 2 weeks with that dude, I am crossing the stage at ClickFunnels, which was crazy to me. And then last year during COVID, we grew another 50% during COVID.
Wow. So you're doing multiple 7 figures per year? Give or take? Getting there? Just about.
We're almost there. Cool. But I will say what we are doing.
That's like 150 grand a month.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So what I will say is, what's great about it is we because of what we've done and how we've done it, I now have an incredible team that I can now invest in. Before it was Neha in ClickFunnels, playing around.
Before that, I think it was Infusionsoft.
We just got off Infusionsoft.
Oh, congratulations.
We moved to this software called Active Campaign.
Oh, yep. Yeah. And you've worked with Dave before. Did Dave help you kind of game plan any of that?
Yeah. So we talked with Dave, and
you find somebody.
So we were Infusionsofting it because I got very attached, and then a new chief marketing officer was like, "This is junk, and it looks like junk in there."
It's clunky.
And he was like, "We'll migrate." I said, "You'll migrate, not me."
That's it.
I'm not ready for that breakup.
Mode.
You did,
Yep.
you did the software breakup.
Yep.
So
yep. CEO. So let's talk about team. So like you obviously, like, this story goes back to you being 15, coaching coaching kids at school type thing. So obviously you didn't have a team when you started, and it's all been grown through the hustle. At what point did you start bringing on teammates, and what were some of the first hires that you made?
So when I was doing the tutoring, I was doing everything. And then when I quit that job, I brought on 4 tutors.
Gotcha.
But I still tutored, and I still did all scheduling, payment, all of it. Like, I remember just having like an entire pad of paper with like everyone's schedule with every kid, because it was just so old school. And so then over time, I finally hired like an admin assistant who could pick up the phone and like sell tutoring.
Okay.
which was amazing to have someone be able to handle inbound calls.
US based?
Yes, US based.
Where did you find them? How did you find? Were they local, or was it like an Upwork find?
I think it was like it was either Indeed or Hire a Mom.
Yep, hiremom.com.
Yeah, it was one of those types of things. And then just to be very clear, everyone was part-time. Like, it was, people that wanted to tutor kids because that's way more fun than their corporate job in their free time. And then this person was working part-time as well. So those were my first for that service-based business.
Yep. And then now in the kind of productized business, what is your team? What does your org chart look like?
This
will be a tribute to Biddy. I remember Biddy at the Abundance Circle was all about the org chart. So I'm like, so what's your org chart? And that was mind blowing for me as well, to have her explain that. So what's your org chart look like these days? Yeah.
So this team, I basically have a team of Tom Brady's in this team. It's unbelievable, really. As an entrepreneur, I have to say,
old dudes shilling crypto. Is that what the Tom Brady reference is? Or the best in the world? Is that the
best
reference?
In the world?
Good. I like it.
So I'll say that, I think as an entrepreneur, a lot of times you think you're the best at doing every skill until you hire a team member and realize you were actually totally crap. And that was really big for me on certain areas of the business where I was like, no one can close a sale like me. I had, and I guess you could call it ego really at this point. I was like, no one can do it like I can. And that's what really stops you from growing. So my org chart now is I have a head of sales. I for the first 7 years of my business, took every sales call and closed it. If you want to know the recipe for burnout, that's it right there.
And I got to jump on that. If you also want to know the recipe for being an absolute assassin on a webinar, that's a terrible word, not an assassin. Like the best in the world on a webinar. That's how you learn it. You did 8 years of objections in your ear, and you sat there through the objections. You know every objection. You know how to get by every objection. You learned it, and folks aren't doing that part because they're trying to automate before they start.
Oh yeah, no, you can't automate that.
Years in the trenches.
You can't automate it. Yeah, you can't automate it. So I had years of having people say your baby is ugly over and over. And
all babies are ugly, for the record. They're weird. They look like aliens. Let's be real.
They kind of look like aliens. I think at the 8-month mark, that's when they get beautiful, just like businesses get really good after 10 years.
They look like the Michelin tire man. They got the, the kid rolls. And I love it. Sorry. Random.
So I would say that I have a head of sales, which is incredible. And he has 4 enrollment directors under him that handle and field every call and follow up with every human that contacts us. Then we have, that's on the sales side. Then under marketing, we have a head of marketing, which is awesome. Under the head of marketing, we have an SEO person, because SEO is important. And so that person's in charge of what I call apparently it's called free traffic, which is really nice. Then we have the ads and funnel builder man, and he's in charge of ads, and then looking at all the stuff I've made and be like, let me help you organize this. Then we have our social media person, and she's super sweet and awesome and rock star. And then on my internal side, I have someone as well who helps with social media, because just because you hire an outside agency doesn't mean you don't need an internal person feeding them info.
100%.
So I say on that side, we have all of that. I have yet to hire for someone to write my emails. I am still doing that. Good. But honestly, I don't mind, because it's people like to hear my voice anyways.
You got to stay sharp somehow. You got to stay sharp.
It also takes me, just to be clear, an hour and a half to write 8 emails. So I'm such a, I'm so fast at it that like when
Yeah.
we have hired out, the team is like, they're taking forever and we have to edit back and forth.
No one can do this as well as I can.
Right. I'll find that person, I'm sure.
Yep.
So on the marketing side, that's kind of the main focus. And I'm probably forgetting one or two other people on that side.
Cool. On your sales team, are they base plus commission? Are they all commission? How do you pay the sales folks? All commission. So perfect. So they're literally like hunt what you eat type folks.
Correct.
So they're really good, or they don't
they're
eat.
Really hungry.
Cool. That's as they should be. So then the leads they get, are they essentially coming from the webinar? Is it people who didn't click and buy on the webinar?
Through a Facebook webinar clip.
Perfect. So you get them all up to speed. They know the basics. They got a couple of questions. You just need somebody to bring it to the end and follow through. And that's what they do. And they make their commission from there.
Wait, hold on. I'm not done with my org chart.
Let's go. Keep going. I'm taking notes.
Like very excited.
I'm drawing it out over here.
So then following that, just to be clear, used to be Neha in this role. I was in head of marketing, which is why our marketing sucked. And then I was also in head of, because think about it, I'm the one talking to the Facebook ads guy and he's like, this is where we're at. And I'm like literally just like, whatever, like whatever you say in this meeting. I have no idea. I'm on a phone call listening to him. He's talking metrics, cost per click. What is this called? Cost per interview call, like acquisition, whatever. Yeah. I'm like, okay, sure. That all sounds good. Whatever. So I have someone who now is like, no, that number sucked and dropped it down by like 4X and was like, this is what the cost per call should have been. So now I have a head COO. I used to do all of the operations. So now I have someone who does the COO role, who manages, first actually broke every system that I had created and made a better system to create an experience all the way through using better softwares and better people. And then when you work with us, you have a team as well. So the COO has a manager under her. Then we have also customer service now, like actual humans that do that. Because that is very important, unless you want to like hate your business, because you should never deal with those things. Otherwise, I mean, you should at the beginning so you know where you're going wrong. But in general, like
there's
later
insights
on,
in there, but it will drive you insane quickly.
It will, very quickly. And then we have a team of consultants. And then one role we just added was the application concierge. And that person's job is to walk the parents through the process. So there's not a lot of customer service issues.
Yeah.
And so that point person is a little bit older. It's like, little Timmy didn't come to the appointment.
Yep.
Versus the consultant, because we found out if that happens and the Timmy's like, I don't want to work with her.
Okay, good. Move the bad guy. Like you literally hired somebody to be the bad guy in the machine, because you couldn't have the consultant be the bad guy, because then little Timmy's done with it.
The consultant didn't want to be the bad guy. So then they would take our services that takes a few weeks and drag it to months because they didn't know how to hold the boundary.
This is one of those ideas that you have that like I hear it and I was like, well, that's brilliant. Of course that makes sense. But it probably took you years of like bouncing against the wall. Like, why doesn't this work? And there's like, oh,
yeah. And it's amazing. So and then we formed pods with the concierge and the consultants. And then, and so that's on the operations. And then I hired an outside accounting firm, not someone internal, because I tried that and that didn't work. So I hired this amazing agency. Every month we talk through all of the numbers, every single expense. We have like charts and everything.
Yep.
So from a metrics perspective, we're very clear on like cash flow, profit, everything.
Yep.
So if you look at our charts, it goes from sales all the way through accounting. I don't think there's anyone else really on the team under any other departments really. If I were to add, it would be PR agency, which we've had in the past a few times.
They got you a bunch of press.
Right. And then I would add like a human that does like product design, that creative human that's like, hey, Neha, I was listening in the market and you should
Quinn
make
type person.
Yeah.
Somebody who gets design, the real hardcore design kind of UI UX stuff, the real, I lack pretty aggressively on that.
I know. Everything I make is pretty ugly. It's very much like college shortcuts. Like get into college. There's nothing exciting.
Put a little cap on the side of it and we're good to go.
My head of marketing was like, Neha, that product name that you're trying to, please just stop. I'm like, okay.
And the cool part is what you proved, which is a lot of what I did on my YouTube channel. Like I'm not using a DSLR camera. I was making my videos on my cell phone, right? And it wasn't even a flagship phone. If the content's good enough and you really come through authentically and genuinely, and if your heart's really in the right place and you lead with education, like really driven to be the absolute best in the space, there's a lot of forgiveness that can happen at a big level on some of these kind of branding things. And you can always get somebody who's really creative to come in and,
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'll tell you,
bedazzles
hey,
on
just
it.
to be very clear to everybody, I had never built a website that was more than $1,000 up until last year.
Wow.
Every website that had gotten built, I'd spent maybe $1,000 or $2,000 on each time. And then last year, when we grew so much during COVID, that's when we hired a major website agency, a major consumer research person. Now you go to my website, I'm like, that's mine. Oh, like it's
That's
a
awesome.
$10 million website. If you look at it, it's
Right.
from a branding perspective. We have now rebranded all of Neha's ugly versions of things and consolidated it into a very specific look and brand. It can be $100 million company now. So now when people are on the phone with us, they're like, they have a different experience and thought process because everything becomes more beautiful.
Yeah.
But let me get very clear. I worked at a website agency when I started. So I created a logo for $50.
Yep.
I built my site on WordPress. The phone number went to my cell phone. So again, just like you were saying, I remember when you started your YouTube page, it was like, this is how you stick the camera with the light, Neha, and like, this is how you film. And and your face was like really close to the camera. All up in it, like you're like, hey guys.
Yeah. Oh man. Like mildly hungover when I still drank it. And I was like, oh, hey, Miles here from the Abundant Circle. God.
Yeah, exactly.
That's hilarious. But no, you're reinvesting profits, right? Like, and at this point,
yes,
like it's coming in hand over fist. It's coming in several directions. You're paying very well paid people to move it forward in a lot of different directions, building a foundation that can grow 10x from here, can grow beyond 10x from here. And that's awesome. And that happens after the model gets proven. That happens after you learn how to sell things. That happens after the cash flow starts to climb to the point where,
I would never ever have spent that much on a website anywhere near the beginning.
Yep. It's unproven. It's untested. I got one idea that popped into my head. I want to share it with you. So you were talking about finding customers and that journey, looking for more sources of paid traffic. You have your book, right? And I'm assuming you sell that book on Amazon.
Yes.
And I'm assuming it's sold on Kindle as well. Yes. Does the book have really good calls to action for your webinars inside of the book embedded in it? Okay. So here's one thing we're doing. So I'm just giving you, like, this is literally like Miles and Neha, like, yeah.
Everybody take your notepad out when Miles
whatever.
talks.
Like, this is for you. This is for you.
Just letting you know, I always take notes when Miles talks.
Inside of the books, so we're running a lot of Kindle books and we're putting out more of them, and we're putting really strong calls to action. We put some at the beginning near the table of contents, because that's what, if they click look inside, right? So you're on Amazon, you click look inside, you can preview the book. They'll see a call to action. Like, by the way, get the free webinar. So people browsing Amazon can actually look and see the URL for your webinar, and they can go register for the webinar without even buying the book.
Right.
Makes sense. So we have like 3 or 4 calls to action inside of our books. So you might do a cheat sheet, a template, right? All the different entrance points you have a separate page, a full page in the Kindle book and the book, and then re-upload it. So you can just go replace the PDF and the .mobi file or whatever, EPUB, whatever Kindle is, and then run Kindle ads and start advertising Kindle ads on Kindle and on the book, and literally using the native ad platform. So we run all of that break even. So we're spending $2,500 a month. It's not huge. We're still ramping up. So all the money that comes back, so all the money we spend on Amazon, it's really easy to measure it and see that we're making that money back in book sales. And I'm trying to get to where we're running upside down leanly, but we're spending about $2,500 a month. We're getting $2,500 a month in book sales back. So you're getting, and I know for a fact we're making a ton of money on all the opt-ins. Like, it's just filling our pipeline more. My measurement sucks. So use really good UTM tracking, use separate URLs, do whatever you have to do. That's why I'm not spending $5,000, $10,000 a month on this, is because my tracking's kind of rubbish. So I can't prove that this $2,500 actually made $7,500, and then my lifetime value, I know that's actually going to be $14,000. So I'm kind of like, right now on this last book, we're just executing, but we're publishing another book that we're going to launch out that's going to be really detailed on the data, because I want to get some data behind this. But people go to Amazon, they're looking for a book about college tuition, the dummy's guide to writing a college entrance exam, and you just show up right next to all those books that they're looking. They're an interested person in this solution. They find your book, they buy your book, they buy your Kindle, the embedded calls to action are there, or they could potentially even look inside and then end up on your webinar from there.
That's great.
Works.
That's great. Yeah. And I want to let you guys know, like, I still have miles percolating in my brain from past, sorry, I almost set that up, past like conversations. Like, just to be clear, like Miles, at one point, a long time ago, you mentioned Pinterest.
Oh yeah, that little website called Pinterest.
Right.
And Alejandra and Alex too.
Right. And we are like now employing that. Yeah. So I want to be very clear that like you can listen to like a bunch of information and stuff, and then hold it in there, and then know that sometimes it's doing one thing at a time in steps, and say, okay, you know what? We killed it on Facebook. And that's where we're at. Now we're moving into Google. Now I'm like, okay, let's look at Pinterest.
You doing YouTube at all?
We tried YouTube.
Okay. If you want to hire a gangster, his name's Tom Breeze and he's in the UK.
Right.
Tom Breeze. Yep. Tom Breeze, Breeze. He's in the UK. I would literally just hire him. He's probably the best in the world at it. His core, I wouldn't go through his course. I wouldn't put your ad guy through his course. I would just be like, Tom, I want to hire you. And I think we're testing a lot more on YouTube right now. The writing's on the wall with Facebook. So many people get their ad accounts shut down. There's just so many, like, it's interesting
with us. What's weird is with us, with Facebook, it's like, I mean, it's just like that mom is sitting there. I mean, that's waiting. Just where she's just waiting for us. And then we pop up, and I mean, we have here, I recently had I had to step back into sales because we're getting too booked, and we didn't expect, sometimes you don't expect the growth too. And so I was like, okay, let me open up my calendar, and I'm back on sales. And it's been fascinating because I haven't taken a sales call in a year and a half, but it's, man, have I learned so much just taking even 10 hours of calls. And I had one dad who was like, I got your ad yesterday. I watched your webinar. My kid's in 12th grade. And I give the prices. He goes, okay, here's my card. And so you'd be shocked that like, if you are in the right point of pain for their solution, they're just like, okay, solve it for me.
That's it. Everybody's wandering around. So Dan Kennedy said it, and it was crass as could be. But he's like, everyone's wandering around with their umbilical cord in their hand, looking for somewhere to plug it in. And another way is we're walking around with our problems. We're carrying our baggage around, looking for a way to go hang our baggage on something that's going to solve and handle our baggage for us. Like, and a lot of people think that new phones will make them happy, but other people think little Timmy going on the other side of the country, or going to the college that's in the, getting into UC Berkeley because I'm on the East Bay type thing. And like, that's a tough call to get. When we create the things that help our people get what they believe is going to make them happier in life. Well, Timmy getting into that college makes family happy. They're willing to invest in it when they trust you, when they believe you, and when they kind of really see the outcome.
Absolutely.
Now you mentioned something.
Go ahead. I will say one thing about that too. One thing also that happens when you're in entrepreneurship for long enough is that they say you better be interested in talking about something for at least 10 years. And it's a very true statement, because I'm past the 10-year mark, and it's like, oh my God, I'm saying the same thing over and over.
But the numbers are getting really fun though, aren't they?
The numbers are getting very fun.
Oh yeah. That happens at the 10-year mark too.
Yes. Numbers are insane in that way. Yeah. But I will say that like, I'm shocked I'm having to say the same thing over and over. And my head of ads goes, you have to understand, you basically run an events business. Every single year, there are new parents that are at 12th grade. And it's the most important thing in the world to them. They have no clue who you are. They've done nothing to it. It's day zero all over again. It's Groundhog Day, except it's Groundhog Year for you guys. Same questions every single time. And I'm just like, wow. Now it doesn't mean, and I want to be clear, like, and I know Miles and I have had conversations about this in the past too, guys. It's about like rechanging education. Like, I created a solution that I know is what my customer needs, is at their current consciousness level of what they feel they need for their child. Well, guess what? There's no other redefined college experience yet. Before this interview, I just got off a call with someone who's building acres of entrepreneurship they're basically buying acres in Texas to build entrepreneurship universities.
Oh, cool.
So in the end, yes, College Shortcuts is amazing and it's great and it solves the problem. But what is the problem as well is that our current education system is not effective.
Yeah. Yeah.
So eventually what happens too, when you really fall into this and you figure out it is your passion, is that you're creating something that is a solution, but then eventually you're like, how do I actually fix the solution of the solution that I think I'm fixing?
Right.
And so now I started in the last year.
You're solving a symptom. There's an underlying issue and you're working on the symptom and you're going to help them with it because they believe that symptom is the most important thing in the world. But there's also this, and now you can start to dedicate resources and you can start mind share, right? You can start thinking about collaboration opportunities to like, okay, so if we reinvent education, like our country needs more entrepreneurs. We need more ambitious individuals to create things of value for other people. Like if our country really takes that to heart, we're going to save the ship. If we don't, we're all consumers. This place is going right into a Fed printed grave buried in worthless dollars. You can start to think about these bigger picture things because Neha's needs are met. Neha got a house. Neha bills are covered. Mom's good. Everything's good, right? Like you get, it's moving up Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You got your Porsche. You still got your Porsche?
I do.
Okay. Did you get another one?
I did. I got an SUV. You know, you're in Texas, so everyone drives a truck or an SUV. So
it snowed once in Texas, so you obviously need an all-wheel drive Porsche SUV. I get it, girl. All good. But like, no, like you like your things, certain things, like, but and you're moving up the hierarchy of needs, and you got what you. Okay, cool. Well, now what do I do? And that's the amazing part. I think that entrepreneurship, this is where entrepreneurship starts to overlap with like spirituality. And I kind of like sneak in these one-liners for people. And you know, Melanie and I really closely, so you really get where we're at mentally on a lot of things. But you can now think about these bigger problems, these bigger things that like, man, okay, like how could I redo it? So how much time do you spend in your business on an average week? You said you started taking sales calls. We know what you're doing revenue-wise, but like how much free time on an average week do you have?
So this is a really nerve-wracking question because I stay so private about it because so many people are in the like Gary V world of hustle. And that's been the, that's the
ethos.
Like, right. And so if you're doing what I'm doing, it sounds almost foreign, if that makes sense. So like for me in an average week, we have a Telegram chat with our ops team, our marketing team, and our sales team.
Cool.
I'll check it daily, probably 2 or 3 times a day and respond if needed. Most of the time, everyone else can answer their questions.
Yep.
On Tuesdays is when I have my executive team, and then I meet with each executive one-on-one for 15 minutes to check if there's any bottlenecks at where I can help fix things. Like if they need, right now we're working on that funnel. So who has to be the one that's the voice of the slides, or SEO team might need a blog video from me. So Tuesday is my work day from like 12 to 2. And then outside of that, it's mostly just fielding emails if needed to people, or Telegram chat. So it's interesting because this is not where I've been in, I'd say probably in the last 1.5 or 2 years, it's been like this. And I think there's something to be said about how silent it can get at a certain level. And I know, but I will say that like I've met people at like the 10 billion mark and seen like, again, a systems break, and then they can get into a hustle mode too. So I'd say on average, I can get away with working about 4 hours a week.
That's awesome.
But I don't share this a lot because people are very confused by it.
Right. And very few
I don't know
people,
what else to say. It's very
few people honor the perspective of like, so you actually technically started what you're doing when you were 15 years old.
Right. And they don't, and most people don't realize, like when people meet me now, I'm like, dude, you didn't meet, if you met me for the last 7 years and you saw what I sacrificed in the 100-hour work weeks I was doing, you're just getting to see this version now. Right. And so that's why I have such a hard time sharing it, because it sounds so foreign again in our entrepreneurial world, where everyone is either, there's 2 things I see. Either it's they're doing the 4-hour work week when they shouldn't be.
Right.
Right. So let's just start with the
nomads.
Yeah. Oh my God. Seriously. Right. I was a nomad for a while. So yeah.
Like,
and it's
y'all
like
never work. Like you ain't got nothing to do. You're just going to fucking drink all the time. Like, okay, I got work to
run
do.
a business. Okay. So there's that, trying to do the 4-hour work week when you absolutely should not be, when you should be building. And then there's like the entrepreneurs that don't eat, don't sleep, and burn the shit out of themselves. Yeah. So there's a lot of this that exists. Where's and then there's very few people that are in this like freedom space that have built their business and designed it to a lifestyle. Like I did this in a very methodical way because I knew at some point I want to be a mom. And I knew that I wanted to also build something that made a difference and that didn't consume me. And I'm now finally at that juncture. Right. So, so yes, can you do the 4-hour work week at some point? Yeah. But if you're trying to
put in 10 years of insanely hard work, mastering some rainmaker skills and building brand, and then you can start to consider. So like Melanie and I, we're at a very unique point following a lot of this. My YouTube channel, this is going to be the first video that'll go live after I put up my kind of like the end of an era video where I'm like, I'm done hustling on YouTube. I'm done chasing the algorithm. I did it on purpose to show that within 5 years, you can build something that can be magical. And I not only explained how to do it, but I showed through my actions, the activity of doing it. And the most important part of a sentence, if you're going to make a big statement, you need punctuation. So the end of an era video was very much a piece of punctuation on a longer statement. And now it's like, look, I get to enjoy my life more, right? I just bought a camper van. I'm traveling around. I'm camping all the time. I'm doing things I want to do. I'm not doing things I don't want to do because I've achieved escape velocity. I think the rocket ship analogy is the absolute best in the world, right? Like rocket ships take like tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of horsepower to get going to 5 miles per hour up. But there's this point when they get out of Earth's gravity, it takes an insane amount of energy to get out of Earth's gravity. But once it's there, it will carry on forever. Like literally the momentum can carry it. And most people are trying to coast before they've actually achieved escape velocity. And the rocket crashes.
Yes, or they quit in the middle of the insanity and the intensity. And and then they try to do the next one again and the next one again. And they don't realize
they're just starting over at zero again.
You're not realizing that you're actually making this very painful for yourself.
You're repeating the challenging point instead of pushing through and breaking through and getting to the other side, which is ultimately what everyone who's created the level of success that you've created has to get to. Okay, so let's kind of shift over to the mindset stuff. So we met at a mastermind in Thailand, in Bangkok.
The best one. The best one with the best perks at it, by the way. Everyone had a massage at the same time.
Oh, that's yeah. Well, we met at the other one, right?
Okay, right.
The dudes in crypto, I'll call it, the red light district one. And that's where we originally met. And you paid for the extra day to be in. I paid for the extra day, and they sat us at the same table, and that was where we met. You then attended the Abundant Circle event. You also went to the Entrepreneur House after as an advisor. Then you went to Abundant Circle Part 2, which was in Bali. So you and I have hung out in Costa Rica. Like your willingness. Let me say it this way. Yeah, like your willingness to hop on a plane and fly sometimes a stupid amount of time, like to Bali, to show up for a few days in a closed room with other people. The expense of the business class ticket, the price tag to show up, all of that. Then there's the Tony Robbins side of things. So you went to at least one Tony Robbins thing once. You're like, this dude's great. And you went to all of his things that year, including the super ultra high ticket experience in Fiji on his island. Okay, so the pattern, and this is what I'm trying to help people get, the pattern is your willingness to invest your time and your money to go get around smart people and to take notes and to listen, to ask questions and to make friends and all of that. Where did that come from? When did you learn that somehow that was required or that was helpful on the journey that you were on?
So for me, and we haven't shared this, but when I was 18, my father passed away in a car accident, and it really shook my entire life for a very long time. And I actually developed a lot of unhealthy habits that I didn't realize stemmed from the trauma of that experience and not getting therapy after it because I was too prideful that I was over it very quickly at that age. And I would say that, I was pointed towards personal development because the demons that I was having to face while trying to be an entrepreneur were going to eat me. So I ended up at a Tony Robbins event because a lot of my family were like, you need help. Like, I don't know what to do with you, you know? And so that's how my personal development journey started.
Wow.
So I would say that like it came from a very intense level of pain of reworking so much of what I was against internally, to really change those habits, because you can really be destructive if you don't work through your stuff. So that's why I did Tony Robbins. And then I did Tony Robbins for an entire year. Like you said, I just kept going, and I was around other people that were like, hey, are you going to come to the next event, and like holding me accountable to my growth. And let me be very clear, that kind of growth is painful AF, especially when you're dealing with some big things in your brain. So that's my personal development wasn't like, oh, I think I'll just like show up at this. No, this was like I was hitting a point of like, do I want to keep going, and how am I going to keep going, and how I'm going to do this in a joyful way. So that's how Tony Robbins came into my life really early on. And I was like 27 or so. And I'd also dealt with like a broken engagement around that time. Like I was just feeling pretty much down in the dumps. So my personal development really came from me feeling sad, upset, frustrated, going towards habits that were hyper unhealthy, and then really being able to shift the psychology of like, hey, you have a lot to offer in this world, and like, you are worth it. And actually what's amazing about it too, is that like when you do personal development and you're able to grow your mindset like that, actually your revenue also starts to match
100%.
you as you go. So if anyone thinks that entrepreneurship is not a spiritual journey, you must be like just running a nice little fun business, living in Chiang Mai and eating pad thai all day, which is fine. That's cool too. But I'm just saying that like, it's a good life. That's a very, very good life. But I'm just saying that in general, if you're wanting to really be an empire builder over here, this is going to take some serious spiritual growth. So that's where I started. And then I kept going. I started to attend lots of events. I ended up, 2 years ago, I ended up, meeting an incredible entrepreneur she was running a $10 million company. We talked for 2 hours. I took notes and I did verbatim what she said. And it literally scaled us to the 7-figure mark that year. And that was just because I was in the room with her. I was in Archangels, and we ended up across the line from a personal development exercise. And then that was it. We were best friends. Then through her relationship, I ended up on Necker Island with Richard Branson for an all women's event. I mean, and just to let you know, like Necker Island was like, it's like one of those bucket list items as an entrepreneur. So, and I didn't want to go with just dudes. So it was amazing. I was able to manifest that. And then
mac and cheese at 3 a.m., right? Am I right?
Truffle mac and cheese available at 3 a.m. There's no on that island. And even to this day, when I'm relaxing or, because sometimes you have to give yourself the permission to not be a hustler when you hustle for so long. Because that's also very hard, because you don't have that off mode as much. I think too, when Richard used to say, well, I start my day with my assistant going through emails, then I go into the ocean for 5 hours. And then I'm like, what? So I always remind myself, like, he's not the one booking the tickets. He's not the one handling customer service for Virgin Airlines. So going there and being in that space, also crazy enough, that week was the highest revenue week because my energetic was different. I've done silent retreats. You want to deal with your demons? Go fucking be in silence for 5 days.
How long did you do? Like a 5-day Vipassana?
5 days of silence.
Wow.
With
good for you.
Yeah, that was intense.
Damn, you like to talk as much as I do. That has been really tough.
Right? I know. And then recently I went with Patrick. He invited me. He was like, hey, you want to go see this Joe Dispenza thing? And I'm now at a place in my life where if I have really good friends that recommend something, I don't have a lot of questions. I just go because they're never going to lead me the wrong way. And I ended up at that event. Again, same thing happened. Revenue, I wasn't even working. It just went up because I was in the energetic mindset.
Yep. You were working on your brainwave states.
Abundance was there.
Joe
and
Dispenza
I was transferring it into my team. So
100%.
So I'm going to another Joe Dispenza. So I'm at a different type of personal development in the sense of like spirituality of like going inwards,
Yeah.
because there's so much inside.
It's not about raw pumping yourself up as much anymore. And
No.
like you've changed the conversation up here to where it's creating positive, right? This conversation reflects on that. And now it's like, wow, it's still the same stuff that Tony Robbins talks about, but there's this like effortless power state from within a centered, calm space and Dispenza is really kind of in on that stuff. But real quick on Patrick, like what a brilliant example. So Patrick jumped on the Nomad cruise. That's where I met him, right? Was on the Nomad cruise. And they had this VIP upgrade. It was called a yacht club. It's this private club. It had its own separate bar, its own separate food, and it was like the front end of the ship. And Patrick was broke at the time. He wanted to learn how to do, and he paid the upgrade. He paid to get in the room, and he was like, you know what?
Yeah.
The most successful people are going to be in the yacht club. I'm paying for the upgrade. And he was in there every day. We became friends. For folks watching, like he didn't have a business. He didn't know what he was going to do. He's still trying to figure a lot of things out, but he then came and video documented both Abundant Circle events, and he got around more 7-figure business owners and multiple 6-figure business owners. And it's his willingness and ability to get in that room, to be around those people it's changed the trajectory of his life. Even from that starting point. And I think you're a great example of what it can do. My story goes back to a very dark time in my life. Like I've had kind of 2, what I call dark nights of the soul. I really did not like my life. I was disgusted at the life I had created. And it was from that I really started like, okay, how's this work? Learn the matrix, right? Like change the conversation up here and this changes, right? Like change the way you look at things, and things you look at change. I don't believe it, but I'll give it a shot. Holy shit, I think this stuff works. And now we just play with it, right? And now it's just like,
now you can play with it.
Now you can play with it. And when you get to the point where you can play with it, it's pretty freaking cool. And that's where Melanie and I were out of town pretty much all of last week. We popped into service long enough to send out 2 or 3 emails, did this one new little product thing that came out time sensitive, $75,000, like just extra popped up. And we were maybe around our computers for like 2 hours, give or take.
Nice.
Right. And those kinds of things happen. That magnifying effect of energy and efforts happen because of a lot of the other work that we've done and a lot of the goodwill that we've put out over the last 10, 12 years on brand. And it's pretty powerful. So what are you doing now? What are you into now? What kind of like Joe Dispenza seems like it captivated you. You went to the advanced retreat in Mexico, correct?
I did. I think,
Up at 4 a.m. and doing
yes. Oh,
cool.
yeah. I did a 4-hour meditation, and I was just living in 5D, and it was, there's some pretty crazy experiences. Like it was so powerful for me. My dad was up there, and, I had a lot of phenomenal just connections and conversations with him. And that was I think it was just really healing for me, because I've done so much work around that with therapists and brain spotting and EMDR. And when you name it, I've done so much work around a lot of different traumas I've faced. And that's again, if you want to be pushed to your edge over and over, that's what entrepreneurship does, is to help you work through all of that stuff. So I would say now, what am I up to? Well, College Shortcuts is scaling. So that's really fun to play a scaling game with a bunch of Kobe's and Tom Brady types of team members. As
the CEO, as the coach, you're not getting tackled anymore. You're not throwing blocks on the field. You're just like, all right, well, go execute. Like, here's Miles's little Kindle strategy. Execute.
Correct. Like I'll take the notes that I just wrote down and send them to my team member, and he'll be like, okay, we'll put this in for this quarter to instruct, or we'll hire this person to do this and this. So I'm not having to do anything in that manner that's so tactical. So it's been amazing scaling a team. It's amazing to have a team that actually all worked within another company in the past. They took from 1 to 10 million. So that's also really exciting, is that all of them have worked together before. So there's a synergy already that exists between them.
That's pretty valuable.
It's pretty fucking amazing, actually, because they all know each other, and like, they're all awesome.
How did you find them? How did they?
So this is what happened to me. So maybe you guys can't tell, but I'm a bit of a control freak. And so
I'm gonna go ahead and say that's an understatement. I've had her to an all-inclusive private chef event before. But you do so lovingly, and it's a ton of fun. But no, carry on.
So I will say that, like, I want to do everything all the time. And so what happened was, my head of sales, who came into my business about 2 to 3 years ago, had finally been like, do you want to have a life, or do you want to do every sales call? Like, try us out or something. So we tried him out, and he grew us to where we are now. And then I asked him a simple question, because I had a friend of mine who I met at an Archangels event. No, I was connected because I was at an Archangels event to this person who we both flew to Toronto to meet each other for 2 hours at a dinner. And then that was it from that connection, but we just still talk, of course. And he had said, hey, it looks like your head of sales is pretty sharp. He's very passionate. Why don't you send him a message and just say, hey, if I got out of the way, what do you think we should be doing? And just in that question, he goes, okay, here you go. And he literally, in a 5-minute audio message, gave the entire vision, who would be part of the team and what he would bring on, because he knew all these people. And I go, sounds great, let's do it. And he goes, what? Control freak is going to surrender?
That's awesome.
And that's how it happened.
The power of a good question right there. Yeah, that's a really good question.
Because I had a team member who knew where he goes, you are literally leaving money on the table every single day. And I watch it and it's painful to watch because you want to be head of ops, you want to be head of marketing, you want to save all this money, make all this profit. But in the end, you could have just been working less and making way more.
Yep. Get out of the way and let the machine do what the machine wants to do. Yep. The machine wants to run faster than you can turn the cranks. So let go of the cranks, put on the automation and put on the right people in the right places.
So true.
And let it rip.
So that's one aspect of what I'm doing. I'm recently, so Miles knows that one of my second passions is around cooking. My business afforded me about 7 years ago to go to culinary school full-time for 6 months. And Miles has had the enjoyment of some of my cooking.
Absolutely.
So one of my passions outside was always to run a meal company or private chef company. And I've been approached by a major brand here in Houston, Texas, who is working with a nutritionist on a metabolic reset plan where they are going to be the sales and marketing under their brand. And all I have to do is do the one thing I love, which is the cooking part.
Awesome.
So that's a second project I'm working on. Third is my mom, she's older now. She's like 65 or 66. I'm like, oh shit, she's turning 66 soon. Okay. So she's getting older. And she's a badass boss, by the way, running a 7-figure business as well, just killing it. And her business is expanding. And so it's also an area where I'm looking to help her with that company because she's great at making things happen, but where she lacks is around like the sales and building relationships with schools and stuff like that. So it's a third project. And then today I got off the phone with someone who used to work at Apple, worked in VC, like in the Cupertino area, then moved to Dallas, bought a bunch of acres of land and is buying 40 acres near Austin, apparently, and wants to build a university.
Oh, right, right.
He's like in his 50s or 60s, like a typical Bay Area kind of like dude. And clearly has the funding aspect of this project. Doesn't want to do all the hard work, but could use like spokesperson, who like can be a face of something or really help with building that next university, which will happen in this lifetime for me. I already know that. So I'd say, I'm working on a lot of different projects. And the only reason why is because I'm not, the one doing everything in college shortcuts anymore.
And they're fun and they excite you and they light you up, right? It's like, and that's what it, people think that this whole like idea of retiring means to withdraw from, technically, like if you get to the etymology of the word and just, okay, so you build up a business and you hustle up 30 grand a month, 50 grand a month, 100 grand, whatever it is, in a life-changing amount of money that covers a logical, sensical amount of lifestyle. The goal, like no entrepreneur I've ever met actually wants to swing in a hammock and drink all day, every day. So maybe for a couple of days at a time. And they're like, hey, and then they're like, this is pretty fucking boring. Let's go do something that helps people.
So my mom has this theory. So my grandfather was working, and he was older, and then he retired and passed away. And my mom really has this belief that when you retire, you die. And I thought it was really fascinating that she has this thought. And she goes, I will never stop working. Yeah. Just to be very clear with you, like, don't do that. And last year during COVID, what happened was the US closed all of its borders. So she couldn't bring teachers for a year. My mom for an entire year didn't work. Very scary to watch. She organized, reorganized, organized, reorganized, organized. I was like, holy crap, this is what happens when you take a very highly intelligent human and then make them a lady who lunches. So the reality of the matter is The goal should actually not be retirement. If you think it's retirement, go watch Jiro Dreams of Sushi.
Yeah.
That guy's making sushi rice and he's like 90 years old and his kid's not allowed to do anything until he's had 20 years of sushi rice.
Yep. And he's making damn good sushi rice the old way.
And he's
like no
making
electric cookers.
Yeah. He does not need, the business doesn't even allow for new patrons.
Yep.
You know,
that's on Netflix, by the way, right?
Yeah. It's on Netflix.
Yep.
So yeah. So this whole concept of retirement, like I was around some entrepreneurs early on in my journey that were like Amazon entrepreneurs. And I was like, how does this work that you like sell pantyhose?
Like FBA?
Like 20,000 a month selling pantyhose, you know, or like shampoo and conditioner or biotin or gummies or vitamins, right? So there's so many things these people are doing. But the one thing I saw over and over was they didn't really like what they did. They weren't really happy. Like they didn't feel like purpose with what they were doing. And then there was a point in time where like Amazon would shut their entire business down. And then they were like really in depression.
Dude, crushing. Absolutely. 100%. Yeah. I mean, I remember Winston who came to one of the Abundant Circles. He went to the first one, the kid from New Zealand. And he had he was selling corsets. Like this fucking 19-year-old kid.
Him. Oh, it totally was him because he was in my
and he
pictures.
Was like, I gotta get out from under this. Amazon's gonna shut down.
He hated selling these pantyhose.
Totally. He figured out a hustle, but he had nothing. And there's one cultural thought of what entrepreneurship is, the Instagram fake CEOs out there who try to make, successful entrepreneur, successful CEO look like passive income, hashtag passive income. And the truth is that the greatest, they just, what's that? How am I changing the world? How do I create more value for other people? And we build systems that we can put people and automations in the right places to let those systems go. Those systems spit off more cash flow than needed to run the system and to pay everybody wonderfully and to pay me. Now, cool. What do I do with this excess? Well, okay. What's the next best thing I can do? And the next thing. And, I wish that became cool, right? Like it's difficult to make that cool, but yet the Lambo bros are still like cool. And that's just chasing weird brain chemicals to try to feel significant and to try to show off symbols of success that actually move us backwards in the game of wealth, which is just, it's so backwards. It's absolutely incredible. It's cool to hear that you have some projects that inspire you. What about investments? Like, what do you, so you're making a good amount of money. I'm assuming you have a corporate entity in place. I'm assuming you're like matching yourself to get the discount or to get the tax deduction and to maximize your contributions there. You probably have way more coming in than you could ever put into tax advantaged accounts. Do you want to where are you at there? I'd love to learn.
So we last year was a big year for us. So we actually, we gave a lot of money away actually to nonprofit work. The second thing we did was fun. Yeah, it's very fun. Isn't
that fun? It's an interesting feeling to start to give away thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. Give away, like literally, like y'all need this more than me. I found a few charities recently that are near and dear to my heart that I give regularly to, and it's it feels wonderful.
It feels so good.
Yeah, carry on.
So we've got that. We also started something called, my accountant actually was like, hey, this IRA thing you're doing is great, but actually you're kind of past that. So we opened a defined benefit plan.
Okay, cool.
And so that's that plus a 401k that matched that. So we did that. I invested in crypto this year. That was fun to throw in a little hat there because everyone had it. And I was like, okay, I'll have some. So, Sweet. Some of, actually, I think, was it Abundant Circle people? Like it was like Joanne and Leanne Beasley kept posting earlier this year about, crypto. And I was like, okay, ladies, fine. I'll throw some money in. So I got some Ethereum and
Smart.
Bitcoin and sushi and whatever. Okay. Anyway, so I put some money in there.
Yep. Cool.
And then I also invested quite nicely into the stock market last year when everyone was all scared.
Oh, cool. During the COVID crash, you pulled the trigger.
Yep.
Smart.
So I was doing that too. So we've got that going on.
How did you pull that off? How did you have the courage and the motivation to do it when everybody was freaking out? Were you just like, dude, everybody's just freaking out. People are being stupid.
So I actually ended up, again, about community. I ended up joining like a little community of people that were like investing. Mm-hmm. And there was someone that was like, hey, you should look into this stock or that stock. And so I invested into a lot of transport stocks that like I wouldn't have normally done. And they've all done extremely well.
Cool.
And then I'm still continuing to invest, except that like the market's really good right now. So I'm just like
Yep.
waiting for, I think in 2 months it's gonna be a little different. So then I'm
Yep.
ready to like throw it in again. So yeah, I would
Anything
say
in real estate at all?
well, my house. I mean,
Okay. Yep.
I bought a house
Yep.
this year, and that was
Gotcha.
a big step, by the way, for someone who's been nomadic and like traveled 6 to 7 months of every year. To get a house is very like, it's very like American dream feeling for an immigrant, right? So I was like, oh, I'm like really doing this thing.
Out
So
there
I was
painting your white picket fence.
Oh yeah, it's beautiful. Actually, I should really paint my fence white. That's a great idea. So it's this beautiful home, and I had saved for the down payment over the last 2 years. I was just like waiting for the right city to feel
Cool.
right for me. And so now I have a house, which is really crazy to me that I pay a mortgage. It feels very adult.
And you settled in your hometown, right?
I did. I
Cool.
did. I was
Good for you.
living in
So you're near your
California,
mom.
came back near family, and
Yep.
it's just, you know, with everything going on in the world, this is what makes sense for me now. And
Yep. For
I
sure.
mean, what's crazy is what I spend in my mortgage is like way better than what I paid in rent.
Oh, you're in West Hollywood, right? Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
Southern California, right? Yeah. It's
Right.
night and day. So we got rid of our Sedona place, did incredibly well on the Sedona place. We've got this spot up in the Northwest that like 20 acres on a lake. It's incredible. And the cost is so much less than our
Oh my
Sedona
God, I have
place
to
that was in
come
the
see that.
subdivision.
That looks awesome.
It's remarkable. It absolutely is. And we're making some fun changes. One tip for you, there's a company called Thrive FP, Thrive Financial Planning. So it's for accredited investors only, for viewers, which you are accredited. And they're out of Austin, and they do apartment complexes, deals on apartment complexes, and they do deals on like hard money deals. So it's a way to get access to real estate in your portfolio. But there's so much money seeking yield that the returns are going down, but they're really good. They're really good. So you can buy into like apartment complex deals. They do like middle class, apartments for like teachers and firefighters and police type stuff. Really run of the mill stuff, not overly luxury. And they've been very consistent for a long period of time. I won't mention the guy who I learned that from. You know who he is. Yeah, so I learned that from an Austinite who's dropped me a couple of tips, and they're really good at what they do. It's kind of nice to have that little bit of diversification into that. Yes. Without doing it. We were Airbnb out that place in Sedona when we weren't there. It was very good cash flow, but it was just, there's a bunch of little stuff for me to do. And the last thing I need is a rental where I have to go, oh, Miles, go coordinate to get a new water heater. Like, you fucking kidding me? Like, I'm dominating in my web business over here. I ain't got no time to go, like any of that stuff. So it's kind of like who can we trust in certain areas? Yeah, I think it's cool that you got into the crypto stuff. Have you read the Bitcoin Standard book yet? So so the Bitcoin Standard, and then there's a post or a book. It'll be a book. It was a blog post called The Bullish Case for Bitcoin. I highly recommend going through those two. Without going too deep into it, it absolutely is revolutionary technology. I think Ethereum is absolutely programmable money is something that will absolutely transform the world. But the core concept behind Bitcoin being absolutely unique and being this new financial protocol. So the internet is an information-based protocol, right? We can move information around the globe at pretty much the speed of light, right? Like we're hosting this. I don't know what kind of computer you're on. It doesn't matter. I don't know what kind of camera you're on. Everything figures itself out in this protocol for the video and the audio to work together. Bitcoin is adding a protocol layer of value transfer that meshes and melds in with a protocol layer of information transfer. And I think that read those two books, and I would hope that you are staying strong on the Bitcoin side. People get caught up in the shit coins, in the pump and dumps, because they have really big moves, and the dog coins, Elon did like revolutionary technology that literally could and may change the world. It's worth dollar cost averaging, and whatever you're willing to lose, just a little bit every month. The Strike app is literally 0 fees to buy Bitcoin, literally 0 fees to buy Bitcoin on Strike app. Jack Mallers, that kid he's a 26-year-old kid out of Chicago. Like, what he's doing as an entrepreneur, he fires me up so much. Just I love it.
I know. Don't you love when you meet people that are like in their 20s and just rocking it? You're like, oh, like I got connected with this person who's like wrote a really great book, and she comes at college admissions from like a product manager from Salesforce view. Like she's got like a engineering mind versus my mind is very different. And just to hear her systems and it was as if I was talking to like a 12-year-old less, like a younger version of me. And I was like, wow, I cannot wait
see what you create,
to see what you do, because
totally.
you're just gonna rock.
Yeah, it's fun, right?
She hasn't quit her job yet, and so I told her, call me the day you quit, because I know how hard that day is, and like I'm here, because I wish someone was there for me the day that I like sobbed at admitting I was going to be an entrepreneur, because I knew I could never go back. So I just want to make sure she has someone, you know. So that's what's so great when you meet like really amazing, hungry 20 somethings. It's like so rare. And it's so nice.
It's a part of the path, right? Like you try so hard to build something. It's so challenging to get over the hump. It's so difficult to get to escape velocity. You finally get there, you get people and places and systems in place that free up the time. And it's like, oh my gosh, I just want to go help other people who are ambitious and willing to do this. And I never got that when I was younger. Like I had this like very anti-rich people, and like they'd never do anything good for me. And you know, coming up in the internet marketing world, everybody was charging for information, right? This is why I'm so against the greedy gurus. And so I started my channel to give everything away for free. And I get these comments. I still get them every once in a while. Like, what's your end game here, right? Like, when are you going to sneak in the sales pitch? And it's like, no, there really is a point. It's a human thing that you get. I got so much going on. I'm so blessed in my life. I'm so comfortable. I have such a surplus. I'm donating. I'm like, I really actually will take time to create content that helps people. With the sole goal of helping more people become entrepreneurs if they're ambitious enough, knowing 90% of people won't, 10% might, 1% is really going to make it. And we just keep putting it out and hope we attract those 10%. And if I can be a step on their path, it's a worthwhile endeavor.
Absolutely.
What are you reading these days?
Well, it's so interesting. No, so I have this friend I met named Alex Sharfin, who does a lot around
Alex Sharfin,
Charfen.
Okay.
Also really lovely. He's also an Enneagram 8 and loves systems. So he's like, everything he says sounds like maple syrup to my ears, because it's like, oh yes, like, oh, it's a systems person, you know, because we're so rare in the world. So he recommended a book to me called, I think it's called Power versus Force.
Oh, okay. Nice.
So I'm currently working through that. And then I've also read A Radical Awakening by Dr. Shefali, which is, I mean, it's just a game changer at least as a woman. I've had men read it as well, but it's all about breaking down every social belief around everything.
Cool.
So Personality Isn't Permanent is also another book by Benjamin Hardy. That's an incredible book, I would say. And then I'd say those are kind of the main ones I'm reading right now. I still listen to certain books like Attached. I still do a lot of relationship books because I think there's always so much you can learn there. But those are kind of the main ones in terms of that. And then I'm listening to Joe Dispenza's meditations. I've recently had a main push towards my health significantly, because it's really easy to kind of put that on the back burner for so long as an entrepreneur. So I'm committed to, I've been working out every single day, and I don't negotiate on that anymore, because I used to really do that. So yeah, I can keep myself actually pretty busy outside of like the day-to-day of this business. Like there's still so much to do in a way.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. Are you meditating every day? Do you meditate every day? Like it's a non-negotiable. That's a no. It's okay. Like you don't have to. Like it's okay. And which Dispenza ones are you doing? Are you doing the one where it sounds like he's yelling at you down the hall and he's making his voice all weird? Like he takes it a little bit too weird for me on his guided meditations.
Well, I mean, let's get real. Like you have a great person nearby.
But she doesn't like listening to herself. Like, remember the days of like voicemails when you hear yourself on the old tape recorder and you're like, I hate the way my voice sounds. So Melanie can't listen, which just chooses not to listen to guided audio meditations that she creates. So there's a lady called Sanaya Roman, orendaben.com. We listen to hers. And then there's a dude on YouTube, Steve Nobel. He's a Brit and he does guided meditations. So that's one of my non-negotiables. It's been for 10 years plus, every day after. So like, children get cranky midday, we put them down for a nap. humans get cranky or hangry midday,
Totally.
and we don't put them down for a nap. Right. Meditate
Yes.
every day. So I literally, just before we jumped on, I laid down and did a Sanaya Roman 30-minute meditation audio.
Okay.
And I feel like they're just a little gentler than Joe Dispenza. Joe Dispenza tries a little too hard.
These are intense.
They are, and he's just trying. It doesn't. There's many.
Here's my question. Have you been to an event yet or no?
Just several of Joe's. I haven't been to the advance. I went to his 3-day one in San Diego. I went to a 1-day one in I went to a 3-day.
You see him in real life already. Some people, if you just listen to the meditations, you're like, oh, what's happening? But if you've been in person, you get what he's doing.
Pull harder. You can do it. Squeeze. Jesus, Joe, chill out, man. This is meditation. Like
hold, pump. I'm like, this is funny.
There's like 7 people watching this right now who are laughing their asses off because they totally get the Joe Dispenza reference. And then there's this whole other segment of viewers who are like, what are you guys talking about?
Yeah, but I will tell you, like, I had a crazy experience on the beach where like I fell back and like I had the lightning and the water and like it was one of those incredible energetic experiences. So yes, should I meditate more? I should. I listened to one of his ones that's apparently for moms called Tuning in the Love, and it's only 20 minutes and it's really relaxed. And it basically is all about tuning the love back inwards. Like, you give so much, you're so patient with others, patience with yourself.
Fill yourself up, right?
It's like all about coming in more inwards.
If you want to overflow, you got to fill yourself up first. And I would say that's like the key. We often listen to the same one over and over and over.
Yeah.
So if that one works, but like just set it around lunch, set it as try to get that in your schedule. Cause I think it really, like, if you're doing the workout stuff and that at the same time, it's huge. I just lost a friend and a mentor, a marketing guy. Nobody knows this dude. I was on the phone with him multiple times a week. He literally just like a week and a half ago died. 50 years old, kids.
Oh my gosh.
That dude has been making $1 million a year plus every year for since 2003, 18 years. So this dude is like, the gurus, the name brand gurus out there in marketing have nothing on this guy. And we were hanging out 2 times a week on calls, and just like within a week he was gone, and kind of crushing. And it got Melanie and I, we just really, it's like, boop, longevity. I'm going through a book like the blue zone solution. Yeah. Yes. So going through that book right now, really, we eat super clean already. I exercise a lot, but what are those little things on longevity? Because the one thing that you can't buy is more days at the end if it comes down to it. So I'm like really in that, like, cherish every day. Got adopted by a neighbor's cat. So I guess it's our cat now, but this cat has adopted us. So like, I'll just sit outside just with cat on my lap, just watching the water on my garden. And I'll just like be in that moment and just breathing exercises, and just like, it's so blissful. It's so interesting that like all of the effort and the crazy and the travel and the brand building and and the hustle and the 80-hour weeks for years to that moment to just like,
yes.
I don't know. It's remarkable. Like, I think fulfillment and happiness is simpler than we make it.
Yes.
And I think culturally we've gotten so many people so messed up in the head. Media and advertising, like, I'm an advertiser. I see it. I know the damage that it does culturally to our world. And it's just like, it's crazy.
I mean, and this is what my TED Talk was when I did it 2 years ago. Is achievement killing us? And it talks a lot about like the importance of that moment, that fulfillment that you can feel. That's like, it's like, it beats any achievement, And
I've seen so many people try to buy another supercar and shove that next supercar in that hole of emptiness inside of them. And all they got were some brain chemicals. Oh, one book for you. Have you read Habits of a Happy Brain?
No.
Okay. So this book, if you want to know why the gurus are like the Lambo boy and the Flex, like how they got to like out Lambo their Lambo. And now this Porsche isn't good enough, so I need the Ferrari. Now the Ferrari's not good enough, so I need the Rolls Royce. It's all serotonin. It's all brain chemicals, dopamine, serotonin.
Oh, absolutely.
They go through the different brain chemicals and then like, it's mind boggling. Like now, Melanie, we take that through the brain wave stuff that we've learned, Dr. Joe. It's added a new layer onto everything. And we're just like, oh, they're doing that for serotonin. Oh my God. Like drivers, the way people drive on the road and the me first, and I got to get around you. It's for feeling significance, which means that they just got a hit of serotonin, a squirt of serotonin in their brain. And it's like, oh my God, everybody in this world is bumbling around doing things for brain chemistry.
Yes.
That book
yes.
was mind blowing. And I listened to it on Audible, and the freaking lady who read it sounds like an AI. I almost turned it off because I didn't like the way she sounded.
Yes.
So glad I stuck with it. It's a game changer book for sure.
I'll check it out because that is very true. I mean, as someone who likes to race cars in my free time, there's a lot going on brain wise when you're doing something like that.
Have you ever done any racing simulators?
Not racing simulators. When I lived in LA, I was autocrossing.
Oh, cool. Your Porsche.
Yeah. And it
Nice.
was pretty cool. I mean, I was one of like the few women that were in that whole thing.
Totally. Autocrossing's a blast, like big pylon cone course, 70, 80 second type course.
Yeah, and just like doing it.
Top of second gear. You might hit third gear, but probably like a lot of first and second gear stuff.
Yeah, the car is just doing this crazy stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah. And then I remember afterwards, just like my body feeling like totally shot because I was literally running on adrenaline for 5 to 6 hours straight.
Yep. Did you work the course too, where you stand out in the course and you pick up the pylon cones?
No,
it wasn't that. Okay. When I was younger,
no, they had other people that were like volunteers that wanted to do that, but I was like, that's hyper dangerous.
Oh, it was so fun. When I was a kid, we did a lot of autocrossing when I was younger, and we would work in the cones. And so you've got these cars just whizzing around you, and if they knock over a cone, you got to run out and put the cone back up and run back to the spot. And so I built this right here. So that's a racing simulator. So it's got 6 degrees of motion. The wheel has force feedback. The pedals have force feedback. I'm with the gaming computer on that. I'm maybe 15, 20 grand into it. But it literally like moves. So like you hit the gas, it goes up, you can bump. And I do wheel to wheel racing on a thing called iRacing, where like literally there's no computer. It's not like a game. It's a simulator. Like the hardcore folks say it's a simulator. And so I race real racetracks. They're laser scanned racetracks. The physics are all 100% spot on. It is a freaking hoot. And
I've heard about these things.
I don't have to buy tires. I don't have to buy a truck because from where I'm at, I'm so remote. I'm so rural here. I would have to buy a bigger truck and a trailer in order to take a little car to a race. And it would be a weekend every time I went to race versus I run downstairs in my basement and I fire this up and I'm like, running into people like, God, I fucking suck at this, man. Like, God, I'm sorry. I bumped into you. It is so fun. I do think entrepreneurs, like, they need that a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Like, we have a very different chemistry that exists in us as entrepreneurs that, like, I mean, if you are willing to not have security of a paycheck, you live a risk averse life. 100%.
And so,
like in risk averse, like we entrepreneurs, we take risk on logically, and we look at risk reward in different ways than most people do.
Totally.
And essentially, like, I think one of the things I've seen with most entrepreneurs who are really successful is they have things they do that get them into what I call the Zen moment, which it's not actually a Zen moment. It's the moment of not thinking. So Branson is all into kite surfing, right?
Yes,
you can't think when you're kite surfing. You're playing with the waves, your core, and
he just hangs on this thingy.
You're in the moment, right? Yeah. So surfing is another thing that a lot of people, you go to Bali and all the nomads are out there surfing, because surfing is like, you can't think on a surfboard. The moment you think about something like, oh, I should write that email, you're getting tossed over, right? Like, you have to. Snowboarding is similar, and on this. So I'll write. I'm working on a new course that I'm going to give away for free. Someday I should like sell a course, but I'm building this massive funnel course teaching everything I know, and I'm going to give it away for 100% for free. So I'll write for like 45 minutes and then I'll jump in and I'll race. And then like, I forget about the writing completely. And then I come back and I'll write. So it's almost like a Pomodoro technique, but in between my work sessions, I go like, like shaking around in my friggin' little race car thing. And I come back here and I write, and I'll just kind of like teeter totter back and forth, and keeps my energy up. It's fun. And I don't know.
Oh yeah. This sounds awesome.
I think you'd enjoy it greatly.
I think so too.
And then
even just like the sound when my car turns on, I'm just like, ooh, yes.
What Porsche did you get? What did you get? The May?
So I got the Macan SUV. Yeah, but it's actually faster than my other car.
Well, your other one was the Boxster, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you got and this one has a turbo, and that one didn't have a turbo,
it
right?
was so cute though.
Yeah,
I mean, the tiny one's so cute, but now I have an SUV, and it's like a mommy car, but it's a mommy car.
Oh no, they smash.
with
They're
like
awesome.
power.
Oh yeah, and the suspension too. You're up a little bit, so you
yeah.
got good visibility. And now Porsche, like Tesla thinks they know how to build a car. Please wait till Porsche that Taycan comes out. Like Porsche, the fit and the finish, like oof. The four-door sedan is actually one that I look at, the Panamera. Like
Panamera.
just it's a it's a little bit goofy looking, but I like big cars for long road trips, and just an incredible machine.
Yeah.
Have you ever looked into the Porsche driving school?
I've done the Porsche driving experience twice.
Okay.
Yeah, one is in Atlanta and one was in LA.
Okay, cool.
So
Cool.
I've done both of them.
Have you ever looked into rally school or rallycross racing at all?
I have not.
So Dirtfish, Google Dirtfish. It's not far from where I live. It would be about $4,000 each for a weekend, and they put you in. So you're either doing rear wheel drive or all wheel drive, and it's like an old timber place, and you get an instructor, and they just literally teach you how to just go full speed. And rally is multiple surfaces. So you're on gravel and you slide through gravel, and then you're on tarmac, and you're on asphalt, and then you're on dirt, and then you're on gravel, and then you're on, and so you go through turns on different, and you're just just drift and just chaos.
Yes, because Porsche has that thing. I don't know what they call it, but it's like a thing where you can spin, and they somehow have it like on a plate or something. Yes.
The skid pad.
So you take the car on it, and then you start like basically skidding all over the place.
Oh yeah. So in Finland, where rallycross is really popular. So in Finland, in order to get your driver's license, they take you on a skid pad, and they
everyone
should do that.
I don't know why. Like when I went to Porsche driving experience, I was like, I'm sorry, why is not everyone learning that you're supposed to put your wheel the opposite direction, or
you turn into the spin,
turn in it, like all this information. I'm like, I'm sorry, driver's ed sucks. Like this is unbelievable information that you're teaching. So I
rolled my first car on city streets because I got sideways. And when I was sideways, I turned against the spin, which is what you don't do. Had I turned with the spin, I wouldn't. And I literally flew over a car upside down, bounced on the roof, almost went into a reservoir. I was that close to dying when I was 16 years old. After getting 100% on my driver's exam 3 months later, that's what I did. And
oh my gosh.
But so yeah, if you'd be interested, Dirtfish, I think they're actually open now. That could be kind of a fun way to get you up here, and then bomb over to Dirtfish and do like a weekend rallycross school. I think it'd be fun.
I think it'd be really fun.
Driving circles.
So you're on. So are you like growing vegetables and things?
Oh yeah, and huge garden. So I've planted probably
the
40
chef is
fruit
asking,
trees.
Of course.
Yeah. Oh dude, our zucchinis are bumper right now, and like tomatoes, zucchinis, onions, leeks, kale, cabbage, cauliflower, broccoli, corn. We did cantaloupe and melons last year. I didn't get cantaloupe and melons in this year. All kinds of stuff. Jerusalem artichokes, which is like a little tuber that you can eat.
Oh my God, yes.
All kinds of stuff. Like my neighbor runs.
Do you have like more than you can even eat?
Zucchini right now we do, but not really. Like we eat vegetables like it's our job, right? So we don't eat out. We literally cook every meal for ourselves here.
Well, so yeah, that kind of produce, why not?
Yeah. So next summer, let's plan to get you out next summer. And during the because I'm going to be on the road most of the rest of the summer this year, but like when it's harvest time, it'd be super fun to have you out and just to like go pick beans, snow peas, snap peas, sugar snap peas,
everything.
Beets. Oh, our beets are so good. Yeah, totally.
Gosh,
it's about a quarter acre. So it's 75 feet across and about 110 feet down. And it's this big section and 50 fruit trees. It's still pretty new. So, but yeah, we're fairly good.
You're getting there. That's going to be awesome.
Yep. I've got a guard cat. The cat eats all kinds of, all the mice and the ground squirrels and the moles. The cat is eliminating all of them. So
isn't that amazing how nature works? It's like,
we introduced an apex predator. Like it came up to my doorstep today with a bird in its mouth. And I'm just like, oh man, don't kill another bird. And it set it down for me and the bird flew off and it chased it and the bird got away. I was like, yes, the bird made it away.
Oh my gosh.
So ground squirrels that eat the roots of my trees, I don't care, but the cat doesn't know. It moves. The cat wants to attack it.
Yeah.
All right. Any pets? Anything?
No pets. I was thinking about getting a fish.
Okay.
But then it was a big step. But the one aquarium I wanted that looks like a little high rise, it was really cute. It like didn't come from Amazon. So then I was like, maybe I'm not supposed to have a fish. So
I love it. The law of attraction said no. What can I do? What can I do?
I was like, why is it so hard to get 3 aquariums, like these little cute aquariums? So no fish, but that's okay. Like I'm still traveling. And so just having a pet, I think would be a little challenging.
Yep.
Even I have 11 plants in my house.
Yep.
So like even
that was a big
keeping
one for
track
us
of
too.
those,
Yep,
I mean,
totally.
I have like a jungalo situation. That's what LA does to you. It's like plant land.
I love it. Yeah.
You know.
We I've set automation for the cat. So far it survived 8 days with us gone with like an automatic food thing. And
wow.
I think we'll be good. So
and there's also that thing where you can set it up where like it has like an iPad attached to it. I don't know if you've seen this.
None of that for me. I'm trying to play dumb house games over here. Too much tech around, too many devices. I'm like, beep, 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 boop, done. Right. Like that's it. Well, I thank you very much for your time.
Yes,
this has been fantastic. I really
so
hope
good.
this has been helpful for my audience.
Yes.
Haven't seen you for a long time. It'd be fun when things open back up, plan a trip. I've been thinking about renting a big old villa again, doing something crazy.
I will help you plan.
Okay.
You put on you put on the best, honestly, you put on the best stuff. You put on the next abundance circle. I'm there. There's no question.
Thanks. I looked, Necker Island is $48,000 a night.
It is very
we can
expensive.
we can rent the whole thing, including the staff, for 48 grand a night. So 5 nights we could do, it would be $240,000 for us to rent Necker Island for 5 nights.
How many people total though?
I don't know how many it would hold, but I mean, the fact that he rents that shit out, that he would allow us to take over his island.
That's what masterminds do on Necker Island all the time.
Got it. I thought he ran them all, but apparently he's
so like I was part of this all women's network event and they all did it. And I think there was 25 of us that went.
All right. So 25 people divided by 250,000, that's $10,000 each. What was it? Was about $20,000 event?
Yeah, it was a little more than that.
Okay, 30?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's what
again,
we have to do.
I was like, I mean, Necker Island, what's the question? Like
truffle mac and cheese.
They literally have staff that like Google you before you show up, and you are there. They have a person that is assigned to you the whole time you're there. They like, and every staff member knows everybody's name. It's as if they like print out a sheet of photos and names. They study who's coming, and they're like super nice. It's like amazing.
Let's put it on the bucket list. Sounds like a fun way to.
Oh, it is definitely amazing.
All right, cool. We'll put it on the list. Well, Neha, I do appreciate your time. I know you have something coming up. We've talked for so long here. I think this has been helpful. Where can people follow you? Where are you active? If my audience members are like, she's the greatest person in the world, where can I follow Neha? How do we connect them to you?
Yeah, so collegeshortcuts.com. You can also find us on Instagram, College Shortcuts, Facebook at College Shortcuts. And then, of course, Neha Gupta on Facebook. If you want to friend me, of course, that's another way to contact us. And then if you've got any parents, we have a free group called Parents of High School Students. And then if you need help, let us know. We can help students from 8th grade onwards with finding their passion and getting into college. So that's another way to reach out.
Great work. Well, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate you. And thank you for tuning in and viewing. And I look forward to connecting with you on the next video. Until then, be well.